Chapter 11. There are no shortcuts to any place worth going. 1. The title of this chapter is a quote attributed to Beverly Sills and is one of my favorites. I believe it perfectly captures the topic we're about to discuss. I encourage you to listen to it again and ponder it for a moment. There are no shortcuts to any place worth going. Note that in this simple declaration, two elements are brought to our attention. 1, shortcuts, and 2, a place worth going. What I love about this quote is that it invites us to investigate both our means and our ends. It causes us to question whether the path we're currently on is an unworthy shortcut, and also whether the destination we're aiming for is truly valuable. Sills's words inspire me to ask myself questions like the following. Is my projected destination truly a place worth going? If my highest aspirations were realized, would they really deliver the peace, happiness, or satisfaction I expect? If so, is the course I'm currently navigating actually going to lead me to that destination? Does my strategy for achieving my goals resemble a shortcut? And if it does, what might that suggest about where I'm headed? In this chapter is to help you identify goals that are worthy of your aspiration and the paths that will genuinely lead you to them. Let me begin by clarifying. What is a place worth going? Allow me to draw your attention back to Chapter 2, where I argued that to enduringly solve our problems, we must work on ourselves from the inside out. Remember that our behavior grows from the branches of our personal trees, and that the degree to which a personal tree resembles the tree of truth determines how well its leaves and fruit will thrive and make an impact. Also, recall that the purpose of the faith cycle is to help us to become a new creature, a being greater in power and effectiveness than we currently are. I made a case for recognizing Jesus Christ as the great trunk of the tree of truth, and for making him the central focus and object of our faith cycle, that as we abide in him and allow his words to abide in us, he will help and enable us to rise above our current limitations. Through Christ and his grace and truth, you can repeatedly be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This process of becoming, through Christ, is truly a place worth going. But beyond that, I want to argue that becoming is the only place worth going. Becoming. As the old saying goes, you reap what you sow. We all want good things to come to us, but good things rarely come to those who don't send good things out. We all want good friends, for example, but it's uncommon to attract good friends without being a good friend yourself. We set goals for ourselves. Perhaps you want to play a musical instrument, run a thriving business, or raise a happy family, but actually achieving those goals is often another matter. Whatever it is that you seek in life, it's my conviction that the only true way to reach those goals is to become. If you want to impress people with your guitar playing, you must become a guitar player. If you want to play tennis well, you must become a tennis player. If you want to look in the mirror and feel proud of your body, you must become a healthy person. If you want people to trust you and respect you, you must become trustworthy and respectable. If you want a happy marriage, you must become a more devoted, loving, selfless spouse. If you want your children to respect you and obey you, you must become an understanding, present, compassionate parent. In the end, anything short of becoming produces at best temporary success that can't be sustained. You can only fake love and devotion to your wife for so long before your true feelings begin to show. Pretending to have integrity and strength will eventually give way to your real character. Jim Rohn taught that our levels of success will rarely exceed our level of personal development because success is something we attract by who we become. Stephen R. Covey adds, in all of life, there are sequential stages of growth and development. A child learns to turn over, to sit up, to crawl, and then to walk and run. Each step is important and each one takes time. No step can be skipped. This is true in all phases of life, in all areas of development, whether it be learning to play the piano or communicate effectively with a working associate. It is true with individuals, with marriages, with families, and with organizations. Surely the path to success and happiness in every area of life lies in following this natural process of growth and development, in becoming the kind of person capable of achieving what you seek. To reach for high levels of excellence without devoting adequate time and effort to personal development, to becoming, may be like a baby trying to run before he's learned to crawl. As Samuel Johnson wrote, "He who hath so little knowledge of human nature as to seek happiness by changing anything but his own disposition, will waste his life in fruitless efforts and multiply the grief he proposes to remove." Yet the path of becoming can feel overwhelming and discouraging. "I'm tired of crawling," we exclaim in frustration. "I want to run. I want results right now." And sometimes we think we see a shortcut, a seemingly clear, obstacle-free path to those immediate results. Why go the long way around when a quicker option appears right in front of us? Shortcuts. Each of us has encountered shortcuts in life. A trendy new diet a social media friend swears will get you in shape fast. A get-rich-quick scheme your uncle raved about at Thanksgiving. An online article listing a dozen life hacks you can't live without. Or an ad for the latest gadget that will supposedly solve your most pressing problem. The reality is, as a society, we are positively addicted to shortcuts. But why are they undesirable? Do you remember what we discussed earlier about Madame Bovary and her attempts to tweak and mold her circumstances to suit her whims? Like many of us, she noticed aspects of her life that she disliked. Yet each strategy she tried amounted to a mere shortcut, never addressing the deeper issue. She failed to consider that the true cause, and therefore the solution, to her problems lay not in her external conditions, but in her internal nature, not on the outside, but within. We've all experienced the frustration of setting a goal, doing everything we can think of to achieve it, and still falling short. Small obstacles appear that slow us down, weaken our resolve, or halt our progress altogether. The principle of becoming teaches us that the source of these problems often flows from within, our underdeveloped, misaligned natures either directly causing these problems or preventing us from clearly seeing the solutions. In other words, we've hit a ceiling that we can't rise above until we improve certain flaws, our hamartias. Without inner change, just like Emma Bovary, we can alter our external circumstances, our job, possessions, friends, even our zip code, and the same problems will resurface. You can move halfway across the world to escape your troubles, but they'll follow you there because those troubles have little to do with your surroundings and everything to do with the misaligned branches of your personal tree. This is the problem with the shortcut ideology. It laughs in the face of metanoeo. Its followers imagine that replacing shriveled fruit and withered leaves with lush-looking plastic ones will somehow improve the health of the tree. It approaches life's problems from the outside in, which usually makes the problems worse. At best, shortcuts quiet those problems temporarily, only for them to pop up again somewhere else, like an anxiety-inducing game of whack-a-mole. Most significant problems, especially the most persistent ones, require real transformation, not just of our behavior, but of our very nature. After all, no amount of counseling sessions, romantic getaways, or new lingerie is going to rescue the marriage of a man who continues to lust after other women. No number of liver transplants will save the chronic drinker unwilling to change. At the king's wedding feast, if you refuse to put on the proper garment, there are no dark corners in which to hide. To skip the transformation of mind, breath, and spirit necessary to truly solve our problems, to try to shortcut the long, gradual process of metanoeo, would be like the Atacama Desert painting its dunes ocean blue, then expecting a host of sea creatures to take up residence. Or like a homeowner who discovers mildew festering in his kitchen wall and adopts an out-of-sight, out-of-mind approach, simply applying a few coats of paint to hide it rather than addressing the root cause. In the end, we can choose to apply quick fix band-aids to our problems, watching them resurface again and again, sometimes worse than before, or we can strike at the root, gradually changing those aspects of our character that cause the problems in the first place. We can either treat the symptoms of our misaligned nature, or we can correct that nature and become a new creature. Shortcuts reject this trade-off. They try to convince us we can claim privileges we haven't earned without suffering any consequences, that we can eat our cake and have it too, that we can enjoy the fruits of a tree we haven't properly cultivated. And unfortunately, shortcuts are persuasive. We're easily seduced by new, flashy gadgets, hacks, or secret time-saving strategies that promise a fast track to fame, success, or eternal youth. But my hope is that you'll recognize and accept this reality and choose becoming. May you see that the only way to enjoy a steady stream of healthy foliage and delicious fruit is to work on the tree from the inside out, aligning its trunk and branches to resemble the tree of truth. That path is metanoeo, to exercise faith unto repentance. However, even after establishing becoming as your goal, it's still possible to fall prey to a particularly deceptive type of shortcut which David A. Bednar calls spurting. Spurting. Spurts, says Bednar, are short bursts of spectacular effort followed by frequent and lengthy periods of rest. Perhaps the most obvious example of spurting can be observed at fitness gyms at the beginning of the year as people set new goals and resolutions. It's a well-known fact that gyms experience a significant spike in attendance during January, only to see fewer and fewer of those new faces return as the weeks go by. We've all spurted to some extent at one time or another. We decide it's time to make some changes and resolve to go big. We're ready to take control of our physical fitness, so we buy expensive exercise equipment and workout clothes and commit to hit it hard for 30 minutes every day, even though we've hardly been working out at all up until now. Or we think we ought to read more, so we sign up for 3 different book clubs and daydream of hours spent reading by the fire, even though the last serious novel we read was assigned to us back in high school. Or maybe we feel impressed to go all in with our local religious congregation, so we volunteer for every service opportunity, extra study group, and social activity. Though our intentions are pure and our initial motivation is so high we can't imagine it ever going stale, eventually our enthusiasm begins to wane. This seed which immediately sprang up is inevitably scorched, and because it has no root, it withers away. We find ourselves only weeks or even days later burnt out, demoralized, and unmotivated. We give up on our goal and are unlikely to give it another try anytime soon. The pedal machine, paperbacks, and prayer beads rest unused in the corner, collecting dust, and we somberly settle back into our old habits, wondering how we could ever have entertained such a silly notion as trying to improve ourselves. Sometimes our morale sinks so low, we struggle even to maintain the good habits we had before the spurt. Perhaps this is what Jesus warned us about in his often overlooked parable of the empty house. When the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, the spirit walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept, and garnished. Then goeth he and taketh with himself 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there, and the last state of that man is worse than the first. In this admittedly unusual story, James E. Talmage called it weird, we can perceive signs of spurting. We can easily imagine the man tormented by the uncleanness within him, his undesirable habits, his hamartias, and one day growing so fed up he decides to completely cast the unclean spirit out with one firm sweep of his broom. We can picture him exerting tremendous energy, cleaning the entire house, scrubbing in the corners, dusting the mantel, straightening the furniture, ensuring that not even the slightest sign remains of the demon ever having been there. And then we can envision the man, exhausted from his day of swabbing and cleaning, wearily stumbling up the stairs and finally collapsing onto his bed. Sleeping long and heavily, he doesn't hear the front door creaking open, or the shuffling in the rooms below as the wicked spirits enter the empty house. And we can feel his great overwhelm and despair when, in the morning, he awakens to find his house in far worse disorder than before. Spurting is, in fact, its own special kind of shortcut. It shares the same faulty view about becoming, that the process of metanoeo can be skipped over or carried out in one breathtaking leap. The difference is that rather than focusing exclusively on the surface, spurting does attempt to make changes at a deeper level, but artificially or too abruptly. Though its recognition of the need for more profound change is admirable, spurting amounts to trying to graft an enormous, fully grown branch onto our personal tree. The result may look impressive and natural at first, but after a short while that grafted branch begins to wilt and eventually dies. To engage in spurting is to treat life like a 100-meter dash, sprinting at full speed right off the blocks. But life is a marathon in which we must pace ourselves to make lasting change, while spurting only leads to exhaustion and burnout. Do not run faster or labor more than you have strength and means, the Lord warns, but be diligent unto the end. Perhaps the man in Jesus' parable would have benefited from this passage from an allegory by the prophet Zenos, in which the owner of a vineyard instructs us on how to clear away the bad, unhealthy branches. And as they begin to grow, ye shall clear away the branches which bring forth bitter fruit according to the strength of the good and the size thereof. And ye shall not clear away the bad thereof all at once, wherefore ye shall clear away the bad according as the good shall grow, until the good shall overcome the bad.